In this Soulframe preview, everything we know so far special, we're going to take a look at the newly announced free-to-play action MMORPG by Digital Extremes, the creative studio behind Warframe. If you're looking for a breakdown of the things that we've learned about the highly anticipated fantasy game, then this video is for you. Warframe has been around since 2013. This free-to-play third-person sci-fi shooter game continues to be a labor of love, so much so that there's always something new to pull and attract veteran and new players alike. For instance, 2 expansions will be released within the next couple of months, namely Veilbreaker, the smaller single-player expansion, and the Deviri Paradox featuring a monochromatic, roguelite, and open-world experience. Fast forward to May 2022 when Reddit pointed out a trademark listing in Europe by the same developers calling their next IP Soulframe. Up until TennoCon 2022, which took place a weekend ago, we were not sure what this new game would be about. Would it follow Warframe's footsteps when it comes to delivering fast-paced and well-designed gameplay systems? Will it serve as a sequel? We will answer some of these questions and more. The official teaser of Soulframe starts by showing a lantern with strange symbols. Immediately after, a subdued wolf is introduced into the frame, and the chain that holds it down is being nailed to the ground by an unknown soldier. The camera then pans out to depict a sword, or perhaps the first Excalibur, which has been driven into a medium-sized rock. In a different scenario, we meet a captive and his incarcerator who deems him as family, yet strikes the man thereafter. And once again, the same iconography we have seen on the lantern is briefly highlighted in the background. However, the air of mystery does not end there as we meet the unconscious captive by the shore as he is dragged by a moose with eyes painted on its antlers. After having recovered, he goes to the place where the soldiers are camping out. What's interesting this time around is that first, his right arm is no longer encased in some sort of locked armor. Now we get to take a closer look at the different inscriptions adorned on his seemingly powerful arm. And second, he is able to free the Excalibur, allowing him to wield it in combat. Perhaps this is an allusion to King Arthur, who was able to pull the sword from the stone, proving that he was the rightful heir of Britannia. The Excalibur is also a symbol of divinity and power. In particular, its scabbard is known to possess magic so much so that whoever uses this on the battlefield will remain protected. Going back to the teaser though, our captive attacks the soldier with a sword, but what's even more apparent is the way in which he uses his right arm to take advantage of the encounter. In a brief moment, he holds the sword with his left hand and then snaps using his right, letting him release some kind of power that knocks back the opponent. He then hammers the sword into the ground, sending a wave of strong energy which freezes his enemies and turns them into stone. This then makes you wonder what else he will be capable of doing, assuming that this character is who we will play as. And remember the wolf in chains? Well, he is freed from his shackles soon after this fight. Although Soulframe's teaser trailer is but a glimpse into what we can expect, there is more to it than meets the eye. When you go to the official website, you'll not be able to immediately sign up for updates, nor can you reserve your envoy's name right from the bat because you need to solve the puzzles first. When you hop into the website, you will notice the familiar arm from the teaser, but it is more distinct. There are several keyholes, which probably means that the player will need to find corresponding keys in the game to unlock their full potential as an envoy. Once you've figured out the correct combination of symbols, the right arm will be rid of its lock. Subsequent images from the trailer appear again with various insignias to decipher what they mean. These images refer to the scene showing the militia huddled in a campfire with a lantern, sword, and chained wolf, the captive himself who is trapped in the sky beyond the clouds, and a close-up of the wolf. The first image refers to the sinecure, which is a position giving the receiver some sort of payment, even if they're not really required to perform specific duties. The term was popularized during the medieval times when people who held jobs in the ecclesiastical sector were not required to put in effort, hence they did not bear any responsibility for the cure of souls. In this case, the sinecures are probably the soldiers whose only task is to pin the wolf down. Additionally, the symbols on the lantern could represent the 9 realms surrounding the world tree Yggdrasil in Norse mythology. All of the realms, including Asgard and Niflheim, are known to house creatures of different beings. This is further supported by the wolf, otherwise known as Orangol. It could allude to Fenrir, who was chained to a rock to prevent him from unleashing his pure strength and evil into the world. In the mythos, he would be freed from oppression at the start of Ragnarok to slay the gods, particularly the chief god Odin. It is also believed that Fenrir will devour the sun. Furthermore, the moose in the trailer could be a reference to Odin. When you dig deeper into the website, you will eventually gain access to a clearer depiction of the moose or the ode, whose central elements focus on the eyes and ravens, which the Allfather are predominantly known for. Eyes for his sacrifice of a physical part of the body to gain divine-like wisdom, whereas the ravens are his companions who keep him well informed of everything that is taking place in the world. The mystery behind Soulframe, however, does not end here, since there is another image to piece together, which is that of the captive. Translated into English, the corresponding symbols refer to banished. Our role in the game makes more sense when the final piece of the website's puzzle is unlocked, meaning when you decode the poem. The poem talks about the war that started from the sky against the so-called Night Maidens, but rather than fighting using swords, songs were cast instead. Songs could mean polluted air since none of the characters in the trailer took off their masks or respirators, possibly protecting them from this blight except for the envoy at the very end. Whoever heard or breathed the air made them into husks of the people they were, ridding them of their virtues such as love and spirit. However, some survived and fled to Odin castles only to come back with twisted souls. We soon find out that the reason for the disintegration of mankind is a new industry, which plundered the earth of its precious resources, bleeding it dry. But now there is hope in the hands of the same creatures we took advantage of. And as a banished envoy, our goal is to bargain and reforge our relationship with the earth to bring an end to this destruction. Soulframe's story is inspired by Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke, as well as the NeverEnding story in terms of the player character's involvement in the war between industry and Mother Nature. We will possibly see Mother Nature's strong reaction against the travesty she has experienced due to the draining of her resources. The MMORPG's themes will revolve around nature, exploration, and the adventures as the envoy attempts to restore balance once and for all. According to Soulframe's creative director Jeff Crooks, the conceit in Soulframe is that the world itself is a little angry about what's been done to it, and the grounds underneath tend to shift throughout the day. So there's going to be proceduralism within the cave networks and crevices, and so on underneath the world. In the same interview with Crooks and lead Steve Sinclair, they confirmed that the game is not a sequel to Warframe, but rather a sister of it. This could possibly mean that certain systems from the sci-fi shooter are borrowed and baked into the upcoming fantasy game, such as the PvE combat style, with randomly generated environments. Where Warframe takes on a movement gameplay system which is quick and snappy with a greater focus on shooting, Soulframe's gameplay will be more subdued and heavy to highlight its melee combat. It's important to draw a line early on in the development process where both Crooks and Sinclair share that the gameplay will be different from Elden Ring or the qualities of Souls-like titles by From Software. They did not draw inspiration from these when they initially conceptualized Soulframe. Right now, we are not yet sure what the combat will feel like since the game is currently in the very early stages of development. Although ideas started to come together in 2019, Digital Extremes only had a small team back then, mostly comprised of artists, until February of this year. The reason why Sinclair and Crooks decided to reveal Soulframe now is to remain transparent to the community and to involve them in the evolution process. Their goal is to have a playable version of the game ready within a year or so you should definitely mark your calendars. According to Sinclair, they want to take a similar approach to Warframe where the fans are able to test and play as early as possible to know the systems that work and those that do not. And lastly, the hub of Soulframe will be synonymous with Warframe's open world hubs, where you can see other players and interact with NPCs to trade items. They will also emphasize exploration above all else to make the world much more livable, realistic, and immersive simultaneously. Final thoughts. Soulframe will definitely be a testament to how far Digital Extremes has grown. Given how well designed Warframe is, both mechanically and aesthetically, I'm hoping to see the same treatment for this open world fantasy MMORPG. It would be interesting to know how much of their previous game's footprint will be integrated here, whether it involves horizontal progression, in which you do not need to reach endgame to feel as powerful, or the numerous loadouts and builds you can choose from depending on the equipment you craft. With the word frame being retained for this game, perhaps we'll be able to change classes as easily as we can in Warframe. Who knows? So what do you guys think of the Soulframe reveal? Since it's a mirror version of Warframe, what gameplay features are you hoping to see in this title? Let us know in the comments below.